Zelensky says Ukraine controls over 1,250 square kilometers in Russia's Kursk region.
Russian authorities are still struggling to put out a fire at an oil depot which was hit by Ukrainian drones 3 days ago. According to Russian state news agencies, the fire has burned across an area of 10,000 square meters in the town of Proletask in the Rostov region of Russia. Reports say there are 500 firefighters attempting to tackle the flames, of which at least 41 have been taken to hospital.
Взорвалась бочка.
А я не слышала.
А вот же, глянь. Вот это уже плохо. Вот это уже плохо.
Ukraine's Army General Staff has claimed responsibility for attacking the oil depot, which was used to supply the needs of Russia's army. It comes as Russia continues to grapple with Ukraine's incursion into the Kursk region. New satellite photos appear to show Russian forces building temporary bridges to replace those blown up by Ukrainian troops. The Russian Ministry of Defense has also released footage of what it says shows bodies of soldiers and damaged Ukrainian military vehicles on a road in Kursk. Elsewhere, Russia says it's destroyed a Ukrainian ammunition and weaponry depot in the Sumy region and a Ukrainian M777 howitzer in Kharkiv.
Ukraine controls over 1,250 square kilometers in Russia's Kursk region. That is according to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He adds that troops captured the largest number of Russian prisoners in a single operation, making it one of Kyiv's largest efforts to liberate Ukrainians from Russian captivity.
Наші активні захисні дії по той бік кордону та нездатність Путіна уберегти його територію від таких наших захисних дій дуже красномовні. Наш активний превентивний захист є найбільш ефективною протидією російському терору і забезпеченням реального ускладнення ситуації для держави-агресора.
84 temporary accommodation centers opened in the Kursk region as Russian authorities say more than 121,000 civilians were evacuated since the start of the incursion. On Sunday, the Ukrainian president addressed the aim of the incursion into Kursk for the first time, which is to create a buffer zone to prevent further attacks by Moscow across the border. Zelensky says his troops would not have to physically enter Russian territories, particularly the Kursk region, if Ukraine partners would lift the restriction on the use of long-range weapons.
The search for 6 missing people continued after a yacht sunk off the coast of Sicily with at least one confirmed dead. 15 people survived, including a mother who reported holding her 1-year-old baby over the waves to save her. Rescue teams and divers returned to the site of the storm-sunken superyacht. The missing people are believed to be trapped in the ship's hull 50 meters underwater. Divers were reportedly unable to access the ship's cabins as they were blocked by debris that had shifted during a violent storm that toppled the luxury sailboat early Monday. One body has been recovered, officials said. Passengers on board included UK tech billionaire Mike Lynch and his family. The vacation appeared to be something of a celebration after Lynch's acquittal in a fraud case, with guests including some of the people who had stood by him throughout the ordeal. The yacht had been moored about a half-mile off the coast when a storm rolled in around 4 a.m. Monday morning. Officials said they believed the ship was struck by a tornado over the water which had passed over the area.
At least 7 people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a street in central Gaza. 2 children and 1 woman were among the dead, and more than 20 others suffered severe injuries. It follows a strike on a school-turned-shelter in Gaza City, which killed at least 10 people earlier in the day, and a strike on the Bureij refugee camp. It comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is approaching victory in its war against Hamas.
לחסל את החמאס ולהשיג ניצחון, ואגב אנחנו מתקרבים לזה צעד אחר צעד. זאת אומרת, אם לפני 3 חודשים, לפני שנכנסנו לרפיח, היו אלה שאמרו שאין מה לעשות, ויש הרבה מה לעשות, בינתיים סיכלנו את דף וגם מפקדים אחרים.
Netanyahu also said his government is making an effort to secure the release of the remaining hostages in Gaza, of which there are believed to be around 110. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has reported the recovery of 6 bodies of hostages during an overnight operation in the territory, although it did not specify when or how they might have died. It comes as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Doha following his talks with ceasefire mediators in Egypt.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris made a surprise appearance at the Democratic Convention in Chicago to pay a tribute to U.S. President Joe Biden.
This is going to be a great week. And I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible President Joe Biden. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you.
4 weeks ago, Biden stepped aside as the party's presidential nominee to make way for his running mate, Kamala Harris. The convention holds particularly high stakes for the party as it will showcase the new presidential nominee's policy objectives. Hillary Clinton also made an appearance at the convention. The former Secretary of State applauded Harris for working towards breaking what she calls the highest and hardest glass ceiling. Also on the opening day of the DNC, thousands of marchers took to the streets in a mostly peaceful protest calling for an end to the war in Gaza. Several demonstrators were arrested after breaking through a fence set up by the police.
The European Union has taken first steps in imposing higher import tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. If approved by EU member states, the draft duty rates would mean that Chinese producers would be forced into longer-term price hikes. Discussions over electric vehicles between Brussels and Beijing have intensified in recent months as concerns that China will retaliate and trigger a trade war loom.
It is for China to propose a solution that is WTO compatible and that addresses the issues and subsidies, illegal subsidies as we see them, that the European Commission has identified in its painstaking evidence-based investigation.
The proposed duty rates are between 17% and 36%. Other companies would be taxed between 21% and 36%. The American brand Tesla, owned by billionaire Elon Musk, would also be impacted, having to pay 9% for vehicles they export from Chinese territory. The Chinese government now has 10 days to respond to the proposed tariffs. A trade defense investigation was opened after Chinese vehicles flooded the European market. Subsidies made Chinese cars cheaper, and their market share in the European Union has grown from around 4% in 2002 to 25% at the end of 2023, according to the Commission. The higher duty rates are intended to protect the European electric vehicle industry, but the Commission has said it is open to negotiating with China.
Massive growth in the population of Ireland between 2015 and 2023 has seen demand for housing reach a ratio of now just under 4 to 1. That means for every 4 persons seeking a house, only 1 is available. The massive demand for housing is resulting in a huge increase in property prices, which is now beyond the reach of most young people. Some observers say the government is failing badly to address the needs of people who are trying to get on the property ladder.
We've failed to stem that flow and failed to build appropriate social homes to allow them the dignity of being able to be housed. So we have a massive crisis here at the moment that is increasing year upon year, and a massive supply and demand that doesn't mix, doesn't connect, and is completely disconnected and at odds with what our needs are.
Central to the massive demand for housing is the rapid rise in the population. The numbers in the country have risen from 3.6 million in the mid-1990s to a current figure of 5.1 million. However, in that time, the number of housing completions has fallen behind demand. A recent study found that Ireland has a higher house demand ratio than Spain, the United Kingdom, Germany and the USA. The demand per capita is twice that of Australia, which is a popular destination for immigrants from all over the world. The Irish government say that despite the current figures, the rate of housing completions is improving.
For 10 years, up to 2020, not enough homes were being built. But if I look at what we're doing now, that in the first 2 years of Housing for All, we significantly exceeded our targets. We will do so again this year by delivering private, really good social housing at a rate that we haven't seen for over 50 years, and affordable homes for working people for the first time in a generation.
The real problem for the Irish government is that as its economy continues to boom, Ireland will remain an attractive location for immigrants whose demand for housing will continue to surpass supply. This 4-to-1 ratio of demand and supply of houses in this country is putting pressure on the government to increase property completions. With a general election coming down the line in the coming months, housing could be the issue that determines who forms the next government in this country. This is Ken Murray for Euronews in Dublin.